Great expectations and real experiences. What comes to your mind when you think about teaching English? Do you know what are the real purposes for teaching English in Colombia? Since we started the Licenciatura program, we have been instructed in different theories and standards to follow as a guide for teaching and learning English, framed on the national policies for bilingual education. Most of them are very interesting and provide very useful guidelines to teach from 1st to 11th grade. However, based on an article written by Sanchez and Obando, 2008, when we face the Colombian context, there is an abysmal difference between the theory and the policies proposed by the Minister of Education and what we have seen as practitioners in our experiences in elementary and high school. First of all, we have to ask ourselves if Colombia is ready for bilingualism. And to answer this question, it is important to do a deep analysis of the processes that we are following to achieve this goal.
According to a publication made on El Tablero by the National Minister of Education on October of 2005, it is expected that the Programa Nacional de Bilingüismo, or the National Bilingual Program, will be fully implemented by the year 2019. This project has focused on adapting standards from Europe to be applied in Colombia, a bold move given the fact that the similarities between that context and the Colombian one are basically non-existent, and that the common European framework was created under different circumstances and different purposes. One of the causes for this is that Colombian standards for foreign language teaching are barely structured, and attention has been given to foreign models. In general, standards have been obtained by importing the ones that were developed in other places under different circumstances and contexts. Although those standards are valid and reliable for foreign academic communities, it does not mean that they would fit the particularities of foreign institutions, language learners, and so on.
Then, it is important to ask ourselves if teachers and practitioners are aware of the purposes of foreign language teaching in Colombia. For this, it is important to know that the main reason for becoming bilingual is to facilitate access to employment and educational opportunities in a globalized world without any borders. However, there are some limitations in learning a foreign language in Colombia, in this case, English, but it must be clarified that the problem in Colombia is not the adoption of a foreign language policy and standards. On the other hand, the problem lies in the learning and teaching conditions that require more attention from the government. Therefore, there are academic needs that have to be met in order to achieve government goals in a fair and rewarding way for teachers, students, and stakeholders.
One of these academic needs could be the lack of exposure to English language learning at schools, since according to Libon and Spara, 1999, the exposition of 1 to 2 hours a week, even for 7 or 8 years, will not produce really advanced second language speakers, which in the end leads to the impression that they have been studying English for years and no significant progress is evidenced. For example, some primary institutions have only 1 or 2 hours of class per week, but they still don't have an assigned time, even if standards begin at first grade in order to set goals in the long term through the whole educational process.
In conclusion, it is true that teachers are essential on the teaching and learning process. However, there are factors that can intervene in the process of teaching and learning English. In the condition described above, what matters the most is not if the teacher has reached a C2 level or not, due to the fact that there are different issues that can affect the teaching and learning conditions. For example, an overcrowded classroom, scarce materials, students who might have different proficiency levels, ages, and even different types of motivation. Also, a scant amount of hours per week for teaching is a challenge for any educator, regardless of the goals set at the beginning of the instruction process, the curriculum, or even on the standards provided by the National Minister of Education. Additionally, in our opinion as practitioners, theory supported by pedagogical authors as well as the Minister of Education and, among others, can provide good expectations to great results in teaching classes in order to have better structured and organized lessons. Nonetheless, it is difficult to apply it since the context, the teacher's lack of commitment, the lack of material, and curriculum are challenging, especially when the standards proposed don't fit very well in our country, as they have been adopted from other countries with different contexts, population, and needs.